It's 6 p.m. here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Choi. Let us begin first with the headlines. A special investigative bureau dedicated to the Choi Soon-sil case is launched. Lawmakers discussed ways to conduct an independent counsel investigation while pressuring Choi to return to Korea for questioning. Korea and Japan discussed putting their differences aside to better deal with North Korea's threats by resuming talks on the adoption of a military intelligence sharing agreement after 4 years of stalled discussions. Samsung Electronics Vice Chair Lee Jae-yong is now a part of the company's board of directors. The family-run conglomerate's heir apparent will have his hands full as the tech titan needs to rebound from shocking Q3 numbers. The allegations against the president's longtime aide Choi Soon-sil continue to expand. Seoul's prosecutors will create a special division dedicated to investigating that case. Lee Ji-won starts us off.
The Supreme Prosecutor's Office has launched a special investigative bureau to dig deeper into the corruption scandal surrounding President Park Geun-hye's longtime confidant Choi Soon-sil. This is the third time prosecutors have expanded the investigation after it was launched earlier this month. The new bureau will join forces with the existing investigative team, which was formed to look into Choi's involvement with two foundations, the K-Sports and Mir Foundation, that she was said to have set up and managed. Choi is also suspected of using her ties to the president to corral donations from major Korean corporations, and there are allegations she directed some of that money to herself. The new bureau will now oversee that investigation and also look into the growing allegations against Choi, who holds no official government position. Choi was recently found to have gained access to classified presidential office documents with permission from President Park, though the extent of her influence over the president is not known.
We will do all our best, regardless of when the independent counsel's team starts its work, and we will employ different investigative methods depending on the circumstances.
As to the question of whether President Park will be investigated, he said the president is not subject to criminal prosecution by law, but he added that the presidential office could be subject to search depending on the situation. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
The nation's three main political parties have begun discussions on engaging an independent counsel for the Choi Soon-sil case. The decision comes after the ruling Saenuri Party accepted the main opposition's call for an independent investigation. Park Ji-won has their latest responses.
The deputy floor leaders of the three main political parties began negotiations on Thursday afternoon at the parliament to gather opinions on how to launch an investigation by an independent counsel into the Choi Soon-sil case. All of the parties had previously agreed on the necessity of a fair and impartial investigation, but each party has slightly different ideas about how to go about it. The ruling Saenuri Party said that using an existing special prosecution system in which an independent counsel is appointed by the president should suffice and reiterated its willingness to punish those responsible.
As a member of the party leadership, I give my word to the public that we will dig into the case and ensure all related parties are tried in court.
But the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea wants an independent counsel investigation that's governed by the passage of a special law. The party also urged the government to locate Choi and bring her back to Korea.
We urge the government to immediately locate Choi Soon-sil. Since it takes a considerable amount of time to form the independent counsel team, the prosecution first needs to locate Choi and secure the available evidence.
Minor opposition People's Party takes a more cautious approach regarding the special prosecution.
Even if an independent counsel is ultimately necessary, I don't think now is the right time to do it. Now is the time when President Park should, frankly, come clean with the public. And the president and the prosecution should immediately ask Interpol for an investigation, but they still haven't done it yet.
The two opposition parties said they were particularly frustrated and appalled to see the local reports saying that Choi allegedly interfered in sensitive state affairs, including inner Korean and foreign policy. Meanwhile, Thursday's parliamentary interpellation session on the 2017 budget was also dominated by the Choi Soon-sil case, with lawmakers questioning key government officials on the allegations. PACT, Arirang News.
And now that Choi's whereabouts are known, there are mounting calls for her to be brought back to Korea. At a daily briefing Thursday, the presidential office's spokesperson told reporters she should be flown back at an early date to clear up public suspicions and put to rest the various allegations. In the 세계일보 interview, Choi claims she was unable to fly back from Germany because both her and her daughter are mentally exhausted. As for the president's response to the ruling party's request to reshuffle the cabinet, the spokesperson said she is still contemplating her next move and will keep a close eye on investigations surrounding that case. Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-won, meanwhile, highlighted the need for the government officials to not allow the recent scandals to affect their concentration on their roles and duties. Speaking at a hastily arranged meeting with cabinet members in Seoul on Thursday, Hwang said greater focus is needed to ensure no problems or gaps are left in running the country in order to regain the trust of the public. The PM added it's ever more important for the ministries to work together and approach their work with a spirit of mutual responsibility. He also reiterated calls for a thorough investigation so that no doubts are left in the people's minds. The foreign ministers of Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo met for trilateral talks focusing on North Korean threats. The trio agreed to work on stronger sanctions on multiple fronts. Kwon So-ah fills us in on what was discussed.
Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo have agreed to increase the pressure on North Korea. South Korean Vice Foreign Minister Im Sung-nam and his U.S. and Japanese counterparts Tony Blinken and Shinsuke Sugiyama met in Tokyo on Thursday to discuss Pyongyang's nuclear and missile threats and other issues of mutual interest. South Korea's foreign ministry said the three agreed that North Korea's threats are the most urgent challenge the three countries currently share.
Today, we confirmed our mutual recognition that the enhancement of North Korea's nuclear and missile capabilities is a direct threat against South Korea, the U.S., and Japan.
We reaffirm the need to increase the pressure on North Korea so it will give up its nuclear and missile development and participate in the denuclearization of the peninsula.
Given the heightened tensions in the region since the regime conducted its fifth nuclear test in September, the diplomats shared their views on the ongoing talks at the UN Security Council, which is to draft a new resolution, as well as additional unilateral sanctions. Blinken used the occasion to reaffirm that Washington's policy on North Korea has not changed.
We recommitted to our three-pronged approach to the DPRK: deterrence, diplomacy, pressure.
The statement comes after U.S. National Intelligence Director James Clapper said earlier this week that the goal of making North Korea denuclearize itself is a, quote, lost cause. Thursday's meeting is the fifth of its kind, with the next one expected to be held in Seoul. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
We turn our attention to a plan that was dropped 4 years ago due to public opposition. South Korea and Japan are picking up where they left off to seal a bilateral military intelligence sharing pact. According to a Korean government official, Seoul will resume negotiations over the General Security of Military Information Agreement as soon as possible and may seal the deal before the year is up. Under that system, Seoul will receive Tokyo's information about the North's nuclear and missile program without having to receive it from the U.S. under the Trilateral Information Sharing Agreement. If signed, this would be the first official military agreement between the two sides since Korea's 1945 liberation from Japan's colonial rule. Samsung has given Lee Jae-yong a seat on its board of directors. It's a major step towards controlling the family-run conglomerate. Kim Min-ji lists out the challenges ahead for the heir apparent.
In a move seen as further laying the groundwork for a leadership succession, shareholders of Samsung Electronics on Thursday approved heir apparent Lee Jae-yong's entry to the company's board of directors. Lee, currently the tech giant's vice chairman, joined Samsung in 1991. His acceptance means that for the first time in almost a decade, that a founding family member is back on the board. With that, Lee Jae-yong will now be able to more actively participate in Samsung's business decision-making and assume responsibility. This is expected to pave the way for a so-called new Samsung under the young Lee, who has been filling in for his father and Samsung chairman Lee Gun-hee.
Now that the nomination has been approved, Lee's responsibility will be put in the spotlight. If a certain decision is made and the outcome is good, it will add to Lee's achievements. If something goes wrong, he will have to take the responsibility. While being a board member, he'll have to build up his profile before he's given the title of CEO.
Lee's first task will be to steer the company through the Galaxy Note 7 debacle and repair Samsung's brand image. Much focus will also be on whether he will work to reshape the group's governance structure. On top of these challenges, U.S. activist hedge fund Elliott Management has been calling on Samsung Electronics to split into two publicly listed firms, a holding company and an operating company, as well as pay a special dividend to remedy the company's inefficient capital structure.
While Samsung may eventually move towards shareholder-friendly policies, the first task is to restore consumer confidence. The Galaxy S8 will determine this, which is why it's under pressure to come up with an innovative product while also upgrading its safety. It's important for the heir apparent to show that he can take responsibility in dealing with this.
Experts add that down the line, Lee will also have to prove how his management style and vision differ from his father's to build up a prominent image that's of his own. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Adding to the pressure that Lee Jae-yong will face, things are not looking up for Samsung and LG Electronics based on their third quarter earnings report. The Galaxy Note 7 issue hurt the leading smartphone makers' earnings, and LG suffered losses due to the poor performance of its mobile division. Hwang Ho-jun breaks down the numbers for us.
Samsung Electronics has released its third quarter earnings, and the numbers don't look pretty. In its regulatory filing, the world's #1 smartphone maker said operating profit stood at 5.2 trillion won, or nearly $4.6 billion for the July to September period. Now that's down 29.7% from a year ago, and the lowest since the fourth quarter of 2014. Killing off the ill-fated Galaxy Note 7 caused serious damage to Samsung's mobile division, the main driver of the company's sales and profits. The division posted a sales decrease of 15.3%, and while it saw a more than $2 billion profit at this time last year, this year's figure is a relatively paltry $88 million. Despite the damage done by the Note 7 debacle, Samsung Electronics' earnings could have been much worse if it hadn't been for the improved operating profit from the consumer electronics, display, and chip divisions. Experts assume the low number will continue at least for a while.
The Note 7 crisis will likely have an impact on earnings at least until the first quarter of next year. A new product will likely be released then, and the performance of the chip, display, and TV divisions is quite steady. So unless the brand value gets irrevocably tarnished, we can cautiously assume the situation will improve, especially because the numbers were exceptionally low this quarter.
LG Electronics has also released its third quarter earnings. The company recorded an operating profit of $247.8 million. While its home entertainment and appliance divisions did fairly well, the numbers for its mobile division were on the opposite spectrum.
We assume the G5's disappointing performance had a negative effect, leading to the large deficit in the mobile division. LG Electronics will probably downsize its target markets and concentrate on the profitable ones.
With both companies posting disappointing lows in their Q3 earnings, Samsung and LG will likely bolster efforts to turn around sales in the coming months, especially in time for the upcoming holiday shopping season. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Shifting our focus to the race for the White House, Hillary Clinton has what seems to be her biggest lead so far over her Republican rival Donald Trump. With just 12 days until Election Day, that's a potentially significant development. Yoon Shin has the details.
Just in time for her 69th birthday, Hillary Clinton has a potentially game-changing lead over her Republican rival Donald Trump. A new Associated Press GFK poll released Wednesday shows the Democratic presidential nominee 14 points ahead of Trump among likely voters in a four-way matchup with third-party candidates Gary Johnson and Jill Stein. The numbers aren't much different in a two-way matchup between Clinton and Trump, where she has a 13-point lead. Either way, it's her biggest lead in recent polls by far. The same poll found 74% of likely voters believe Clinton will end up in the White House, another significant jumping figure for the former Secretary of State, compared to 63% in September. Another telephone survey released on the same day shows Clinton with a 10-point lead. On top of that, Clinton's edge in some swing states and traditionally red states seems to be growing. For instance, Arizona, a traditionally red state, has turned into a battleground state, with Clinton and Trump neck and neck, 45 to 46%, according to a Monmouth University survey. And Utah, another Republican stronghold, seems to be turning away from Trump, in part due to greater than expected support for third-party candidate Evan McMullin. But none of that means Trump's supporters have gone away. He's got a slight lead in Midwest states like Iowa, Georgia, and Ohio. With early voting already underway in 37 states, more than 7 million Americans have already cast their ballots. And experts expect up to 45 million early votes to be cast every day for the next 12 days until Election Day, which means every day will bring the American public one step closer to their next leader. 이은신, Arirang News.
Moving on to another story now. South Korea has been chosen to represent the Asia-Pacific region on UNESCO's World Heritage Committee. The decision was made during a committee meeting in Paris on Tuesday to give Korea one of 5 vice chair positions, along with Portugal, Peru, Kuwait, and Angola, with the main role of chair going to Poland. The committee is in charge of reviewing candidates for the UNESCO Cultural Heritage List and deciding which sites are included. That's potentially good news for Korea, with UNESCO set to consider Seoul's ancient city wall next year for inclusion on the list. That's all from me for now. We do have more domestic news updates for viewers in Korea coming right up. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Devin Whiting with more of your domestic news. It's been a month since Korea implemented a law meant to fight corruption by limiting the value of gifts that can be accepted by people working in government, media, and other sectors. To enforce the law, police are focusing on written reports, and those, so far, have been related to receiving money and gifts, but none have involved the solicitation of favors. KWON Jang-ho reports.
A month after the anti-graft law came into effect to curb corruption, police have received 301 reports of violations. The law bans public officials, educators and journalists from receiving free meals that cost over 30,000 won or gifts over 50,000 won, and limits the money given for congratulations and condolences to 100,000 won. As of today, the Korean National Police Agency says it's received 289 reports via the police hotline and 12 written ones since September 28th, the date the Improper Solicitation and Graft Act was implemented. All of the written reports were related to the receipt of money and goods, and none were related to improper soliciting. Most of the phone reports were inquiries related to the Act, including what it covers and other details. While the number of daily phone reports peaked during the first few days of implementation, with 43 cases on September 29th and 80 on September 30th, the daily number has fallen dramatically. The police agency says it will stick to its initial focus on written reports that include evidence and detailed personal information to minimize the damage caused by intentional false reports. KWON Jang-ho, Arirang News.
The latest data show Korea's birth rate continues to fall. According to Statistics Korea, this year through August saw the fewest number of births for that 8-month period since the year 2000, when records began. In a report released today, the statistics agency said 283,000 babies were born through August, a fall of 5.6% from the same period last year. At the same time, 2016 is on course to see the fewest marriages on record. Unless a much higher than average number of couples tie the knot by year's end, the total number of marriages may not break above the 300,000 mark, another record low. The numbers show marriages did increase for the month of August by 5.5% compared to last year, but an official said that was simply because there were 2 more marriage reporting days compared to last August. Research by a team of scientists at Cheonnam National University in Gwangju suggests the record heat waves in Korea this past summer were ultimately caused by an unprecedented rise in sea temperatures in waters to the nation's south. A team led by Professor Ham Yu-gun in cooperation with the Korea Meteorological Agency looked at data from 1993 through 2013 and found that the South Sea got warmer about a week before every heat wave, leading to southerly winds bringing much warmer air to the Korean peninsula along with higher pressure. That, they found, combined with sunny weather, may have caused the heat waves, including the record long one this summer. And those are some of the stories we're following right now. Thanks for watching. We'll be back at 8 p.m. Korea time. Bye for now.